Hello, everyone, and welcome to Claim to Game. I'm your friend, host, and honorary game noob, Clint.scheirer. Together, we'll be learning new games, mainly tabletop RPGs, step by step. Today's episode is simply an introduction to the show, what you can expect when tuning in, and we'll wrap it up by pitching the first game we'll be exploring in our first season of Claim to Game. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Episode 1, Season 1 of Claim to Game, a predominantly educational, fun podcast. Dare I say, a fun-educational podcast for those who want to systematically learn how to play a new tabletop role-playing game, one game at a time. So why am I doing this? I love tabletop RPGs. I was introduced to them back in 2015 at the Milwaukee Public Zoo here in, you guessed it, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we were at an event where our family was in line to ride the kiddie train, and my brother-in-law turned to me and said, "Hey, want to play D&D?" Now that is Dungeons and Dragons for those of you who are super new to this hobby. Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition for those that you are not those of you who are not new. I had no idea what this was, and I told him so. So he came over to my apartment to remedy this situation. He helped me create my first character for a game that he was going to run, and that's really where I fell in love with learning new games. Looking at the rule books, being able to share them with other people. Had he not sat down at my apartment table, I was going to say kitchen table, but back then our living room, kitchen, and all other spaces were really just kind of one room in our little one bedroom apartment. If he had not come to our table and sat down with me, I probably would never have truly learned to enjoy this great hobby that I now find so much joy in. And what I found out really quickly was that I'm a lover of novelty. I really love playing games, but I don't want to play the same game over and over again. It just doesn't satisfy me. I want to play all the games. I want to devour them, to consume them like a frilled lizard eats termites. And then I want to move on to the next one shortly after. Even if I never get to play the game I just learned with anybody, I love the learning process of getting to experience the game. So that's why I'm here. I love this stuff. But why are you here? Who is this show for? It's for anyone who wants to learn a specific game but feels they need bite sized pieces. You want a breakdown, but you don't want to have to binge 2 to 3 hours of an actual play podcast to get a grasp of how you could play or run this game for yourself with live human beings, or I suppose maybe robots. I'm not judging. Maybe that's really fun. Who knows? But don't get me wrong. I love listening to actual play podcasts. I would sell one of my kidneys, maybe even my neighbor's kidney, to go to a live show for some of the ones that I listen to. And they crack me up. It is not uncommon for me to snort into my coffee multiple times before beginning my day of work when listening to my fave shows. But to me, these mediums offer a higher dose of entertainment than actual learning in the way that my brain works to absorb essentials of a game. To have to get to episode 50 before I can understand how a specific part of the game works, that's way too long for me, especially if I'm wanting to run my own gaming session or join a session that somebody's invited me to play. I need to get those deets a little bit faster. My vision for this podcast is that if you want to look up, for example, how do I create a character in fill in the blank of the game that you're learning how to play here on Claim to Game, then I would want you to eventually be able to find that episode within our archives, download or listen to it, and find the understanding that you're looking for. Just like if you were trying to find the droids that you were looking for, which I personally think should be really easy in the backwater planet of Tatooine. I have a buddy who thinks that it would be very difficult, but maybe you could reach out to me in direct message and debate with me about that particular situation. I mean, what's a podcast without a little bit of conflict and possibly some resolution? The first time I decided, hey, this tabletop RPG stuff, I love it, but I'm not getting to do it enough by waiting to get invited to games. And I wanted to run my own games. The first time I had that thought was back in 2017, right before the birth of my first child. It was if the dream of playing games with other people was developing in my thought or dream womb, while my actual son, my firstborn son, was developing in a real womb. Props out to my wife. Quite poetic. So I ended up compiling for this first game I was playing cheat sheets in PDF format, apps, forum posts, and definitely YouTube links. Lots of YouTube links from any content creator that was talking about the game or how to play it to make the whole experience easier, hopefully, for my players. And I enjoyed myself. This was not unlike the work I did for my students in my previous life as a teacher. It was really like creating a curriculum for the players to become more proficient in playing the game. Not everyone achieved a perfect score, but I'll give them a big old fat E for effort. And the mindset when putting all this together was, what do I wish I had for myself when first learning this game or getting into the hobby? Nearly all of my players were brand spanking new to gaming, and I was lucky if they had possibly even heard of tabletop RPGs through shows like Stranger Things or The Big Bang Theory. And I really like talking out loud, hearing my own voice. To quote the great Sheldon Cooper, I always listen to myself. It's one of the greatest joys of my life. Oscar Wilde also coincidentally had a similar quote, but he also didn't have a podcast. And so, really, encapsulating this learning process into a podcast just seemed like a natural progression. And over the last 8 years, I've accumulated quite a library of both mainstream games, mainly tabletop RPGs, as well as some indie games from lesser known developers. I wanted to dig into them at the time when I got them, but never really quite found the time to learn and play the games the way that I want, which is all in. And that time is now. And because I'm a husband and a father of three young kids, I've always tried to find resources to learn quickly and efficiently. Communities on YouTube, Reddit, Discord, and the like have been crucial. And I am so grateful for all of the people who take time to learn and share with other people on those platforms. You are my heroes. But I really want to do it my way, which I think is a Frank Sinatra song. But I feel when trying to learn so quickly, I miss out on the way I learn best, which is dissecting the material myself at my own pace to fully understand what the game is about and how to run it for optimum enjoyment for myself and my players. This podcast is my way of sharing my own passion for learning, doing it how I learn, and also getting to have fun while we do it. Remember, this is a fun-educational podcast. So here's how it's going to work. Each game I choose will be given the same love and care with the following process spanning multiple episodes. First, my initial thoughts, and I'm going to give you my top three tenders and toughs. That terminology I've derived from eating steak, which is a pastime I enjoy immensely. Aspects of the game I find interesting or fun without much effort right out of the box or book fall into the tender category. It's like a medium rare piece of perfectly cooked, ready to eat meat, and all you got to do is dig in and enjoy that sweet, sweet, delicious flavor. The tough category, on the other hand, it equates to steak that is cooked well done. Now, some people say well done steak is ruined, inedible, garbage. I couldn't disagree more. Growing up, my mother only wanted steak well done for various health reasons, and I learned to enjoy tough, well done steak. You douse it with ketchup, A1 sauce, steak sauce, any other various dips and dallies, and it will eventually be worth eating, but requires a little extra work both in the post cooking preparation and extra chewing to enjoy that entree. So, toughs will be challenges or learning curves that eventually yield a tasty reward and satisfaction intended for gameplay, but we will need more effort on our part to get us there. We will, of course, need to interview with a special guest or guests sharing their perspective of the game, whether they created the game, wrote the game, drew the art for the game, played the game, or never even heard of the game until I pestered them into hopping on the podcast. Remember what Dr. Seuss said in Horton Hears a Who: a person's a person, no matter how small. Episodes will follow diving into the core rules, the game setting, and anything else relevant to playing and enjoying the game to its fullest. Possible live play may ensue, though my goal for this podcast is not necessarily to make it an actual play podcast. There are plenty of those out there, truly fantastic, talented people who are very enthusiastic about the games that they play. It's possible our show's live plays will appear in podcast form, or they may be on different forms of media. And the same goes for any post live play discussions with players honing in on their personal tenders and toughs they experienced before, during, and after gameplay. And finally, a finale episode will wrap up each season with what I've learned making my claim to game in relation to this specific game, highlighting important takeaways I will forever treasure in my beating bosom. This episode will also include an introduction to what game we will be devouring the following season. And that brings us to our first game, the Cracker Jack, the real McCoy, the Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, the reason you're tuning in for under an hour, Goblin Quest, by none other than Grant Howitt, whose accolades include, but are not limited to, Honey Heist, Die the RPG, Spire, Unbound, One Last Job, Heart, and most recently, Eat the Reich, fully funded on Kickstarter. The back of the Goblin Quest book sets the stage for what to expect when playing. Goblin Quest is a tabletop role-playing game about slapstick violence and fatal ineptitude, and the greatest adventure of your life. Play 5 goblins each in sequence, not parallel, and watch them meet hilarious ends while failing to achieve the most basic of tasks. Will they survive the dangerous world of the Great Battle Camp and avoid the attentions of brutal orcs, murderous bugbears, mean-spirited hobgoblins, and scary wizards? Probably not, but you'll have fun finding out. I wanted to start off with something fun on our journey, not too intimidating to me or to other listeners, and one that could easily be picked up and played for a one-shot game night with friends and family. A lot of good goofs and laughs, and you probably guessed it, some incompetent goblins. If you would like your own copy of Goblin Quest to follow step by step as we learn, I will include a link in the show notes for you to purchase. Just a disclaimer, this is an affiliate link, and if you choose to use it, I may earn an affiliate commission at no extra cost to you. I do only promote products, though, or services that I have investigated and feel can deliver value to you, such as Goblin Quest. Join us in 2 weeks as we start our quest, claiming Goblin Quest. We'll look at our top 3 tenders and toughs, as well as some original initial thoughts about the game. Are you itching for more? Then subscribe to our show through the podcast listening application of your choice, and leave us a banging review, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or your grandpa's old transistor radio. Okay, maybe instead go visit our website at www.clint.scheirer.com, where you can listen to episodes, sign up for your exclusive fan-based emails, and find access to our Discord server, Claim to Game, or go find us on Patreon. Feel free to send us any feedback, thoughts, or suggestions to clint.scheirer@claimtogamepodcast.com. If you don't know how to spell that, go look in the show notes. And I bid you a farewell until the next time we make our claim to game, one game at a time.